it would seem we have some corrections to make. This next scene was going to be a close-up, but because I've animated the scene before this as him sitting up, his head is no longer going to be in the position I drew this background for. So I'm going to go ahead and animate this from where we left off here for a couple of reasons. One, so everything is far away and I can see all of the movement that's going to need to happen in one place, and I can make an armature of sorts to animate on top of later so everything looks way more cohesive. That's just easier for me. And also because I'm going to have to redo the background anyway, so animating right here where I can see everything and determine where I want his movement to be is going to help me make another background later. This one is going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of movement here. I'm going to be lip syncing. I've only done that once before, and it was amateur at best. So let's see what we can do. I really want this series to be a valuable insight into what it's actually like to be working on a solo project like this, or any project really. I've spent the whole day afraid of starting this scene because I know it's going to be hard. I've done everything in my power to avoid working on this today, and the whole time it haunted me how I was going to approach this scene. I tell myself I'm letting the idea marinate, but the reality is that I'm procrastinating. Nobody will really care about a project like this until it's done, except for a few lovely people. I see you, and I fully expected that, because it's not until you see a show that you care about the cast, right? You have to be invested first. But that does mean that everything about this rests on my shoulders. I'm the only one rowing this boat, and that can be difficult. So I think it's really good for other people to see what it's like as I am creating this. And then perhaps the people that are interested, once this is completed, can look back and watch these. I see a lot of people, namely the guy, and I'll put it on screen if I could find it, the guy who made the alien animation of like the queen alien, she's waking up in the morning, Menace in the Morning, I think it took a whole decade for people to discover his animation, and he still had a lot of the recordings from his process, and I know for a fact there is no way I would have done that, like that I would have had that stuff sitting around. So that's another reason why I'm recording this all before it gets released, so that I can in real time have like a diary of the experience. And I did miss a good portion of the beginning, like way back in December 2025 when I locked in and did like all the backgrounds, the storyboard, all of the music. I sourced all of the audios for the dialogue and all that. I didn't record any of that, so my memory of that experience is just about gone, and I know that if I didn't record this now, I would just lose all of that to my memory. It would be gone, and I wouldn't be able to tell anyone about it. I have put a transform layer on this group of references here. The problem with that is that it takes a lot of energy to render it, I guess, because it's not officially moved, it's just like a layer effect that moves everything, and then if I get rid of the layer, I think everything goes back to where it was. So that kind of takes a lot of computing right there. That may not be how it works, but anyway, and I've noticed that if I have a layer on like this, a transform layer specifically, it will kill my playback speed, and everything will be all whack, so I can't actually see how it looks. So what I've done here, I've taken all these references, I've put them on a transform layer, zoomed them in real big. I'm probably still going to cut this down so that it's, well, let's see, so that it's like here, or maybe even like here, right? But I do still want to see all of the movement that's happening out here so I can keep it embodied proper. Ooh, buddy, did you see that playback? That's exactly what this transform layer is doing. I'm going to go ahead and trace over this really quick as a placeholder for the previous scene, because I need to get rid of this transform layer. It is killing my ability to make strokes on this screen. I just need this so that I know where everything was, and it can be sort of kind of accurate. The style's going to change because it's going to be zoomed in, and I do expect that, but I do want the placement to be right from scene to scene. I just want everyone to know that I closed every other program so that could load, and as soon as it was done, it crashed. So maybe don't merge transform layers. This is going to be our main order, where I anticipate I will be cutting in. At the very least, it might be closer than this, but it certainly will not be any farther than this. So the idea is that anytime we draw something, it needs to go over this line. That is our safe zone. Give myself the space to match this up with the scene before and after. I'm going to immediately start movement here. Let me mute that, you're not supposed to hear that yet. I'm going to start movement here, picking up from the exact frame we left off on. If you remember from the last one, he was one frame mouth open starting to talk. So we're going to finish that off here. Or start that again here, whatever. Pick that up here. I have a little trick here, and this is what I like to do when something is happening in the previous scene and then the following scene, and they need to match up, but you're not really sure exactly how many frames that is because I had a bit of a mess when I started all of this. So way back 9 months ago when I first started this, I locked in, did everything I needed. Well, not everything. I did a lot of things. Okay, I did a lot of things. I jumped in way too fast with my eyes closed. And what I mean by that is that I was going to use this project as an opportunity to learn a bunch of new software that I'd never used before, like OpenTunes and DaVinci. At the time, I had not used DaVinci yet. So what I did was I compiled everything in there, DaVinci and some OpenTunes. So at that time, I didn't know how to properly export things and then import things and then have the frame rate of the project in DaVinci match the frame rate of the pieces that I had exported from animating software. So it's all a huge mess in there, and I don't know exactly scene to scene how many frames each shot is. So what I like to do when that happens is if I start with some action and I end with some action, I'm going to have a small segment in the middle here where he's still for a few frames, and then I can expand those frames if I need to make up for 1 or 2 on the ends, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I've got to cut this one here. This is going to be a long video.